All right, so we're recording, and I just want to give a little introduction to what we're doing here this morning. This is our Ed Techie Brekkie session on Tuesday, the 22nd of September, 2020. And we're just going to talk to Angela Beck, who's been using the Jamboard tool for teaching statistics. So Angela, we're really looking forward to seeing how you're using Jamboard.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to share, this is a Jamboard. Can everybody see my screen here okay now? Just want to make sure that it's shared.
Yes, we can see
Okay.
a chart and what color are your eyes?
Okay, perfect. So this is a Jamboard that I actually used with my statistics students last week. So I'm just going to take you through the first few slides and just explain how I used it. So before class started, I had this table set up where I planned to ask my students, kind of survey them what color their eyes were. And then during class, I kind of took poll of the results and we filled in the table. So the table itself, minus the actual handwriting that you can see here, was done ahead of time. So during class, I got my students to use the sticky note feature here, and they all just kind of shared what color their eyes were. And then we tallied up the results in the frequency column. And then we calculated kind of the percentage of the total in the next column. So that was all done by the students. So I just sent them the link to the Jamboard, shared it so that they could use it. And they just used the sticky note feature themselves. And we kind of just took note of those results. Then on the next slide, what we did, and I did this kind of live with them, was we created a bar graph based on our results. So again, what I did was I had the graph already set up minus the actual bars with the results. So I had the labels put on there and I had the scale put on there. And the nice thing about Jamboard is you can choose different backgrounds. So it's nice when we're doing graphs and statistics that I can actually choose like a graph paper background. It makes it really easy to draw the graphs. So all I did there was just click on this background button here, and you can choose dot paper, line paper, graph paper, or different color backgrounds. And then we also created a pie chart based on the results as well. And so on the slide after, this is the slide where we kind of worked out our calculations to be able to draw the pie graph. So I'm using a touchscreen laptop. So I just use a stylus and I'm able to just write on the whiteboard. So I did all of these calculations myself, but I did ask any students like if they wanted to give input as we were going along. And I'm really lucky because the group of students I have, they're very vocal, so they don't mind turning on their mics and kind of interacting that way as well. And then I'll just very, very quickly just kind of go through a few more slides without getting into like too much detail about the content. But this question right here, this is actually an image that I just copied and pasted. So I used the snipping tool, and this is from a digital version of the textbook. So I just copied and pasted the question from the textbook into the Jamboard so that it was easy for us to kind of follow along with the question as we were going. And we just went through the various steps of solving this problem. Anywhere that you see sticky notes, that's when I asked for students to kind of give their input to see what they thought the answer should be. And again, I'm using a touchscreen laptop, so I'm just writing on the board as we're going here.
You definitely sorry, Angela, you definitely have a lot more control when you're using that stylus.
Oh, so much more. It's really hard to do with just like a mouse. Yes. But I'm really lucky that I have the touchscreen because it makes it super easy to write and like work out problems as I go.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that Laura's got her hand up. Laura, did you have a question?
Yeah, because I've tried to copy and paste into Jamboard, but it hasn't worked. So I've always had whatever I had to save an image and then upload the image. How do you paste into Jamboard? I just couldn't get that to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go to kind of the end here, because this is all just, it's very repetitive of the same stuff, but I just open up the snipping tool.
Yeah.
And I'll just go like new, and I don't know, and I'll just like say, choose something like that, and I'll just go edit and copy.
Right.
And then I just click on the Jamboard and just Control V.
Yeah, I've tried that, and it never works for me. I can't get the paste.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe what browser are you using?
I'm using Google Chrome.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, I'll try it again, because every time I do the, I try the Control V, and
Yeah, I've never had any issues, but I mean, I'm saving it as an image and inserting. It's not that much more work. So I mean, that works too.
Yeah, that is true, but
But the
I'm a bit of a lazy person.
Really nice. Yeah.
I always tell my student mathematicians are a little bit lazy. That's why we kind of have everything short and sweet, and
we look for shortcuts where we can.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So that's really what I did there. And like I said, anytime I did a graph, I had the graph set up before class began, because I made sure I had a plan as to exactly what I was doing that class. And then we just plotted it together in class as we went. And so the sticky notes on the side for this graph, this was just me asking my students, like, what do you think we should go up by on the scale? Should we go up by 5? Should we go up by 3? Should we go up by 10s? And so the students I kind of let them have that input. So majority rules, we all decided that we would go up by 5. So that's where you see the 5, 10, 15, 20. So I just find Jamboard really good to kind of get students interacting and kind of get their input in stuff. And again, having a lot of this stuff already set up saved me a lot of time. So the graph was already there, so we could move very quickly through this question together as a group. So that was
Angela,
really nice.
Did your students have any difficulty accessing Jamboard or using it?
No, not a bit. I haven't had any issues with it so far. I've used it for 3 different courses now. I've used it for statistics, I've used it for introduction to computers, and I've used it for the trades math course. And I haven't had any student yet that had difficulty accessing it or using it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And does anyone have any questions as you're looking at Angela's Jamboard? Is there anything that's popping into your mind? Like, I wonder how she did that, or? Yeah, Laura says looks great.
I find a big thing, like I said, with the Jamboard is just kind of being a little bit prepared ahead of time. So if you already have your slides set up, it makes it really easy to go through class kind of seamlessly and just moving from one slide to the next. And just making sure that you tell your students, because if you're not sharing your screen, if they're actually in the Jamboard themselves, making sure that you tell them, okay, guys, let's flip to slide 7 now, so that they're actually on the same page with you. And they're not kind of they're not getting lost in the Jamboard, because I have to like kind of remind myself constantly if I flip to a new slide to remind them, okay, guys, flip to slide 5, just so that they're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think this looks great, and somebody who's that, Craig, says it looks very interactive. Yeah, I mean, you're literally giving them a framework to participate in.
Yeah, and I try to have at least every couple slides to have something that they can interact with, like even if it's just something really simple, but just to have a plan that at least every 2-3 slides, there's something there that they can give their input into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's great. So is anyone getting ideas about how you might use this with your students now that you're seeing this new, kind of presentation of different ideas? I mean, this is one of the reasons why I love the Ed Techie Brekkie sessions, is because you can give each other ideas from your own teaching experience, and that's really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
We never know how people are going to take it up, and including the students. Sometimes the students will surprise you with where they go with it. Laura, did you have
Oh, I forgot to lower my hand, but I did want to ask, Angela, are you using D2L and then getting them like putting in the link that way and then on the Jamboard? Because I'm wondering, I tried Teams with a couple of my classes and they found it really challenging. So I'm in D2L with a couple of the classes and the stats class especially. So do you think that they'll have any trouble?
I use the virtual classroom pretty much exclusively for all of my classes. I haven't used Teams for any classes yet.
But in terms of that, like, do you just pop the link into
Yeah,
the, and they're okay with switching screens
yeah,
and all that stuff?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
And the nice thing is that when you're in the virtual classroom, even if they click on the link, same as us with Teams, you can still hear the voices and everything, so you can still chat. And if they want to like talk or something, they can just switch back over to a different window, turn on their mics, and they can ask a question that way.
Yeah, I'm just
And
thinking some of my students might be a little bit, have a little bit difficulty with that, but I'll try it. That's really great. I think it's awesome. You did a
yeah,
great
and the
job.
other thing I do too is I will share my screen at the same time because I'm using two monitors. So I'll share my screen as well so that if I'm recording the class, then whoever's watching the recording can still see what's going on as opposed to just a blank screen with a bunch of people talking.
Right, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Angela,
Yeah.
this is Evelyn. I find that through virtual classroom, it's very hard for me to share. They don't have the resolution in terms of the detail. I know you
Okay.
just mentioned your second monitor. So in Teams, I find that it's really large. So I've been using Teams just for questions to do with labs, so I can go share my screen, go into the websites and all that. But I've had difficulty in virtual classroom. Has anybody else had difficulty?
I haven't, but I mean, the most I'm really sharing my screen for is going to be like Jamboard or showing them like PDF notes or something on the D2L site. Nothing that really requires a whole lot of detail, but I haven't had any issues yet.
And my computer actually crashed yesterday when I was opening too many things through the virtual classroom. So I don't know if it was a high traffic time.
I don't know. I haven't had any issues personally.
Great questions, you guys. Angela, is there anything that you learned while you were doing this? Any tips on what to do or what not to do? Any lessons learned?
Well,
so, yes. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say one thing that I did learn is if you share this link with students, they can access this Jamboard outside of class as well. So they can go back and they can look at it anytime. But you're kind of running the risk. You can have a student that might be able to change things or write on it. So what I'll actually do is once class is over, I'll click on the share button and change the restrictions so that anyone with the link, instead of being an editor, are just a viewer. So they can go back and they can view the Jamboard, but they can't actually make any changes after class is over. So I learned that lesson the hard way when I had students messing with one of the Jamboards. So that's a good thing to share right there.
One other thing too, you can also save it as a PDF and then upload it to D2L.
Yes.
Which is what I've done before as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good tip, you guys.
Yeah.
So anybody can change it. And I was thinking, I had the same panic about Padlet. After I had recorded my video, I thought, oh no, what if somebody accidentally deletes it? So it is good to think about, what kinds of changes do you want the students to be able to make and when? So maybe during the class time, they can be editors when you share. But then, as Angela said, maybe right after class, you might want to go in and just change the setting so that they don't have editing privileges anymore. Any other lessons learned, Angela, that you want to share?
That's all I can think of right now. Because, only using it for about a week or so far, that's really the biggest issue that I've come across. But no, I mean, I love it. The students find it really easy to use so far. I haven't had any issues. So I'm definitely going to keep using it.
Great.
Angela, did you have students have to have a Gmail account, or none of them came back to you with problems at all?
No, so the nice thing is that when you first create your Jamboard, if you just click on the share button, by default, they do have to have a Gmail account when you share it, but you can change the settings so that anyone with the link, so instead of it being restricted, anyone with the link can edit it. And so people can actually join anonymously. So what you'll see happening when you first share the link is you'll see a bunch of pop-ups. It'll be like anonymous tiger joined, anonymous mouse joined, anonymous elephant joined, and all that. And so they don't need to have a Gmail account.
Okay. Do you find that some of them end up getting it anyway, or you didn't even notice? Because
so far, because I pay attention to when like the names pop up, and so far I haven't. It's all been anonymous, which the students actually like because they don't have to worry about anybody knowing who's posting what, and so that little bit of like anonymity. I can't even say that word. Anonymously posting is a little bit, I think, more encouraging for them to interact.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah, so and that's something you can make a decision on. I mean, if you wanted to make it private and to be able to see who was contributing what, let's say there was a situation where that was important to you, you could get students to sign up, and then you could just invite them, right, to that specific Jamboard. Well, thank you so much, Angela. We really appreciate you sharing this, and I think it's wonderful that you've stumbled upon this as a way to engage students for teaching statistics.
Well, I mean, it was only through the sessions with you that I learned about it and like kind of sparked a few ideas, and I kind of just ran with it. So.
Well, that's so good. I mean, the possibilities are endless. It is such a creative tool because it's so simple and basic, and we know that that's a great platform for the students to just kind of start to get creative, and for us too, as we're planning things. So really appreciate you taking the time to do this with us today. And I'm gonna stop the recording there. Just give me a second.